serves as the coordinator of the California Seed Strategy, which was initiated in June 2022 to improve availability of locally and genetically appropriate native seed for ecological restoration in California. CNPS is now in the implementation stage of this strategy. And Carolyn is the stewardship specialist for CNPS. She began her career in California after graduating from the University of Illinois and served as an intern with the Bureau of Land Management in Oregon and California. Spent 3 years managing stewardship projects for the Quinault Indian Nation on Washington's Olympic Peninsula. And through that work, Carolyn learned the process and challenges of bulk seed grow out and the importance of collaborating with other land management agencies within your watershed. She also specializes in invasive species removal and prescribed burning, and is passionate about the relationship between community health and ecological stewardship. She received a master's degree from Cal Poly Humboldt and resides in Humboldt County. So please welcome Carolyn.
Awesome.
Okay, you can share your screen.
Thank you. I see, yeah, there's a lot of people trickling in. Thanks so much for having me. This is such a privilege. I recognize some names, but lots of new names. Okay, let's see. Can you see that all right?
Yes, that looks good.
Okay. Yeah, excited to be here and excited to take questions and discussion at the end. I'm sure there's just so much knowledge in the room. Excited to present to the Marin chapter today. And thanks for the introduction. So I can go ahead and skip my intro slide. That was pretty comprehensive. My partner thinks this picture is too dorky of me, but it's one of few headshots I have. I was doing some forestry data collection in Florida, and there was lots of mosquitoes, obviously. So I'll start with the background, and then I'll get into the implementation, and there'll probably be lots of time for questions and discussion at the end. This is a pretty picture of some farm workers at hedgerow farms in the valley, tending a grass field. So to put the project into context, there's a huge need for seed in California. Up here in Humboldt, or the North Coast, we have big dam removals that need a lot of seed. And then I think you all heard some work on Project Wingspan with the monarch overwintering habitat on the Central Coast, requiring a lot of locally appropriate native seed. Lots of pollinator work in the valley, and of course, lots of post-fire work statewide. And then the Pathways to 30 by 30, the conserving 30% of California's lands and coastal waters by 2030 includes the importance of locally and genetically appropriate native seed. So I need to move this over so I can see my notes. So getting locally and genetically appropriate native seed for these projects is really challenging, which is why we made a strategy to address the barriers to accessing this seed and make it more readily available for ecological restoration. So CNPS started in June 2022. We formed a steering committee made up of state and federal land management agencies. So, and some other seed-related agencies like California Department of Food and Ag, Fish and Wildlife, state parks, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Forest Service, BLM, or Bureau of Land Management, Bureau of Indian Affairs, and Park Service. Natural Resource Conservation Service. And they helped us draft up the strategy. And then we sent it out for review, and we got over 40 individuals contributing comments from seed producers and botanic gardens and universities and tribes and some other folks. So it was a lot of work to put that all together, and we published at the end of 2023. So inside the strategy are 4 goals, and this is structured after the national and Nevada seed strategies that were done 10 years prior. So we use the same 4 goals, but it's very geared towards California's unique needs. So the first goal focuses on the availability, and it looks at a lot of policy grants and contracts related to availability. So, a policy for incentivizing the use of native seed in state-funded restoration projects would help stabilize demand, or the grant funding timelines often aren't long enough to allow for locally appropriate seed and projects. So addressing that in goal 1. And goal 2 is all about information. So compiling, developing, and conducting research on things like seed production protocols. And then goal 3 is all about tools to utilize that information. So there's like species selection tools, or tools to help you forecast seed needs into the future. And then goal 4 is all about communication. So websites, newsletters, media, stuff like that. And so the strategy focuses on the seed increase process. And this is essentially collecting seeds in the wild, growing them out on the farm, and increasing them like 10 times the amount in order to have enough for your restoration projects. So there's a lot of ecological and financial challenges to this. So this diagram shows most of the parts of the process. You have to identify what seeds you need, and plan your collections, and you process them, send them to the farm. There's seed testing for viability or presence of noxious weeds. And then there's storage, and then you need to know how to use your seed, maintain and monitor. And the pictures show some of the steps of that process, and are from 2 of the main seed producers in California, Hedgerow Farms and Heritage Growers. So what's ecologically challenging is that we don't want to unintentionally select for certain traits with this process. So you don't want to just collect once in a season. You don't want to collect only the biggest ones. And you don't want the plants to be on a farm for too long and become domesticated on the farm. So and then I think I already mentioned the financial challenges with project timelines. So the strategy aims to improve this whole system to better match supply and demand, and improve the integrity of the native seeds with standards and best management practices. So it's not just increasing supply to meet demand. There's lots of seed out there, but it's matching that local and genetically appropriate native seed, and better anticipating seed needs and stabilizing that demand in the project timelines to just better match the timelines and locations of the seeds. And then here's some of the criteria of the species that we're focusing on in the strategy. And this is based off of something called the Seeds of Success program that the BLM developed back in 2001. that has like really good tested protocols and best management practices. And so this is just to focus our efforts. It's all related, like nurseries and all that is all related. But for this specific project to focus our efforts, it's on species that are directly seeded at a restoration site, and species that are suitable for that seed increase process on the farm, seeds that can remain viable in storage, so orthodox species. And so no stakes or plugs or cuttings or other plant materials, and then no rare plants. Rare plants have their own Center for Plant Conservation protocol program, so that's not a part of this project. And then these pictures are some of the most common, widely used plants in restoration across California. You got the blue wild rye, the yarrow, the poppy, California brome, purple needle grass, and miniature lupin. And there's some interesting research out there that shows that restoration can actually lead to a decrease in diversity because of limited number of species being used or limited genetic material being used. So part of the strategy is to diversify the number of species used. So increasing the availability of information on how to grow and use these species in restoration. And I get really excited about this part, about how the strategy addresses diversity both within and between species. So this slide is talking about we need more species used. And then the previous slide was talking about how we need to preserve the local diversity within the species throughout the process. So this slide is my transition from background to implementation. I already explained the steering committee and developing the strategy and when it was published. So the next handful of slides, I'll talk more about implementation, which we're about a year and a half into implementation. We launched regional working groups in April 2024. And I'll get into more details about that. We've been doing some regular webinars to try to share information across the state and inspire people and get connected. And some milestones was launching an internal website with reference materials. Identifying priority species was a big milestone at the end of last year. I'll talk more about that. And then the most recent one is we started a seed transfer advisory group. So that'll be the last thing I talk about is where we're at and where we're going. So to get into implementation, we started by forming 5 regional working groups. These are based on the Jepson ecoregions, and we combined the Northwestern and Cascade Range, I think just because of the number of people up there. And we have the Sierra Nevada, Great Central Valley, Central Western, and Southwestern. And so this is the California Floristic Province. The Great Basin and the Mojave Desert already have amazing native seed partnerships that are a really good model of what we're striving for. So we still attend their meetings and kind of look to them as the model, but we don't coordinate their groups because they've been existing for a long time. So there's a lot of outreach to form these groups, and they're made up of a lot of the local representatives from those same state and federal agencies that are on the steering committee. And we've been meeting quarterly to try to implement some of the actions in the strategy, which I'll get into in the next few slides. So part of that goal 2 and 3 was compiling information and creating a tool to make the information accessible, and goal 4 is the internal external communication. So we launched a SharePoint site. I don't know if you guys use that much with CNPS at the chapter level, but it's a nice tool that CNPS has. But you have to be on the listserv to access it. And it's basically a website, but it's just for the folks on the listserv, and it has over 50 resources related to native seed use and restoration, or seed-based restoration. So this is just a snapshot of the page. There's seed production manuals. There's these species profiles that are really extensive, literature on seed production, processing protocols. So yeah, that's all accessible to the 300 participants. And then we have these sites that are tied to this hub, we call it. And so each region has their own site where the meeting notes and contact list and working documents are all organized. So it's been really good to just stay organized and facilitate co-working and communication and connection. But it would be nice to have this more widely available someday if we could put these resources out there for everyone to access. They're out there, but these are nicely organized. So one of the regional working group meetings, we worked together to come up with priority species lists, and this is kind of exciting. So each region made a list, and we organized it by habitat, and that's a whole discussion in itself. But we tried not to get into the weeds about habitat, and then we listed species within each habitat. And this was really cool. All this local knowledge came in. So this is just a snapshot of like part of a list and showing the conversations that were going on just in the document, but it was also, in a working meeting. Just people saying, watch out for this one. There's a lot of subspecies. This one should probably be region specific, or this one has a lot of non-native sources, and this one can be weedy. So it was a really good working group meeting. And so these lists will be used to help compile species-specific information, but also has been useful for practitioners to plan their restoration projects and their seed collections. So that's pretty exciting. I wonder if there's anything else I want to say about that. I think that's it. There'll be more on the next slide. So there was more than 235 species, which was a lot more than I expected. I know there's 6,500 species out there, but we were hearing from research that only 7 get used, and so 235 was a good number. And that was over all the groups. And this is a snapshot of what I would love the information to look like, potentially on CalScape someday, of all the information you need to plan your projects and grow the seed and use it in the field. And so that's not what it looks like right now. I have compiled all that information, which is just an Excel spreadsheet now, but it's information from those manuals that I was showing on the site, and tabulating them by species, but also like USDA plant guides and the germination protocols. And there's like a grassland restoration handbook, and Arlie Montalvo has awesome species profiles from Riverside Corona Resource Conservation District. So we put in all this information. So some of it includes the ease of increase, how to collect, how to clean, how many seeds per pound to calculate seeding rates, how to store them, how to germinate them. And then I cut off the rest because there's a lot, but I got into how to grow it on the field, And then like the recommended seeding rate at the site and all sorts of different notes. That is useful for folks. And I was thinking about having those regional working groups contribute more information, but I'm not totally sure on that yet. Still trying to figure out how to go from here, how to share and utilize and improve this information. So if anybody has suggestions, I'll take them. So this is one of my last slides. This is where we're currently at in implementation. And that is developing seed transfer recommendations. And so this is important for protecting local genetic diversity within a species. And it refers to how far away seed should be moved from the source, which has been a question for a long time. And it's also important for planning collections and mixing populations with the seed increase process. And so we're trying to prevent, and I'm not a geneticist, but I'm trying my best and learning a lot, but trying to prevent inbreeding depression and outbreeding depression and genetic swamping and some of that stuff that can happen. And so there's different types of seed zones or seed transfer areas. And the smaller picture is an empirical seed zone. And that's based on genetics. And then the larger picture is a provisional seed zone from Bauer et al. And that's based on climate data. That's a winter minimum temperature and an aridity index. And so that's just a general recommendation that you would probably want to alter, adapt. It's a starting place. And then what Arlie has done and what we're doing with this seed transfer advisory group is looking at life history traits of the plant, so the pollination and dispersal mechanisms, whether it's annual or perennial, the number of subspecies, if it's known to hybridize, and all this other information to come up with a key to run through for folks. It's a key as a resource for folks to look at and deciding whether they want to be more conservative or liberal with their seed transfer. So what's the risk with each species based on these life history traits? So that's what we're doing right now. It's this amazing group of folks in California and some and beyond. And it's pretty exciting, and I'm hoping it'll be a really good resource to share out to these regional working groups. Yeah. This, yeah, so I don't think I mentioned that this is focused on what CNPS has been doing with seed strategy. There's a lot of other partners that are addressing other parts of the strategy, doing the actual collections, or there's smaller seed collaboratives like Orange County that has a really amazing model. And then some folks focusing on California Crop Improvement Association quality assurance program, which I haven't talked about, but I just wanted to mention that this is what CNPS is up to, but there's lots of other things going on that I'm happy to answer any questions. If you want to learn more, there's a little bit more information, or the actual strategy is on CNPS website. I think that QR code is good for a few more days. That's a new thing for me to learn how to do. And that is all I have. This is my family, Juan and Luna. Yeah, I'd love to take any questions or suggestions or comments or whatever you have. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Carolyn. I think in the chat is it not showing? There was one chat. Was that you, Larry, mentioning something about the Sutter Buttes? You can unmute to speak.
Yeah, just that I noticed the one with the large field of different seeds growing. Sutter Buttes was in the background, so that's somewhere probably along around Highway 5 or something.
Was that the timeline slide?
It's
No, I
one
think
of
that
the
was
first slides.
one of the I think it was one of the nursery shots where you had four pictures together.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. That's right. Yep, that's Sutter Buttes. And that was the Heritage Growers Farm.
Mm.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So if anyone would like to, Laura, I think you have a question. You can unmute.
Hi, interesting talk. I wanted to know how many growers you have once you've got this wild seed sorted out and decided, which piece of it gets grown on. And then most importantly, where does this, once they grow it on, and I assume harvest it, who gets to use it? Where is it going to be applied and how?
Yeah. So CNPS has not been involved with the actual seed collection. And a good model of these groups is to have more collaborative collections. And so it's a lot of land managers of various organizations planning their projects and contracting with growers. Most of the time for each individual project. And so the goal for like seed collaboratives is to do it in a more collaborative manner. So it's not just by each project, that the projects are collaborating, the agencies are collaborating within their region to pool their seed needs together. So that takes away pressure from collection populations, and it decreases the cost, and it improves timeline and the number of species. So that's what Orange County is doing, and that's what the Mojave is doing in the Great Basin. And so I'm hoping that's the direction that this can go. But right now it's very like agency and project specific. And for who's growing it, there's two main growers. The Native Seed Group is a bit of a conglomerate of multiple growers across the state and the country. And that's Hedgerow and SNS and some others. And then Heritage Growers is a nonprofit. And then there's smaller growers across the state. Laguna de Santa Rosa is in your area. That's a newer one that's coming up. And Mattole Restoration up here in Humboldt County is one. There's Native West is a smaller one in San Diego. So there's a handful of growers. Sometimes people say there's only one or two. And that's definitely a goal of the strategy, is to try to increase growers across the state so that seeds can be grown within your region and not just sent to the valley or sent out of state to grow. A lot of folks, yeah, send their seed out of state as well. So I hope that answered the question.
Good. Brian Witt, you can unmute.
Hi, great conversation. I was really interested when you were talking about there was more growing, like propagation and other information online. You said on a listserv or something. I've just myself been creating a spreadsheet and like sharing seeds with people in my town and nearby, and like trying to give them growing information. But having a resource like that that's already there would be great, having access to that.
Cool. Yeah. So there is another project at CNPS. It's the Native Plant Propagation Protocols project. It's a CDFA project, and my coworker Maya is leading that one. And so that is a lot further along in getting that information out there, and I'm hoping to sneak some more like seed specific information in there. But if you have information you'd like to share, we're still putting it together. And yeah, hopefully that'll be a good resource for you in the future too.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Brian, where are you based?
I'm in Richmond, California.
Okay, great, thank you.
I'll put my email in the chat as well.
Okay.
if you want to
Okay, great.
follow up later. Yeah.
Anne, you had a question.
Well, actually, Woody has a question.
Woody.
Yeah. Out here in Inverness, West Marin, I hear rumors, and I see people out in the Point Reyes National Seashore collecting seed. And I just wondered, and of course, we have a lot of fallow silage fields that I think the Park Service and the Nature Conservancy in cooperation are going to try to restore to some semblance of a native cover. Do you know anything about that?
I do.
Park Service holds its cards pretty close these days.
Oh, I've been working pretty closely with a couple of the Park Service folks. Monica Depius is coordinating 4 seed collection crews across the state, and Steve Buckley is administering a project that's implementing the seed strategy on Department of Interior lands. So it's like those agencies collaborating, Park Service, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and Bureau of Land Management. So in Point Reyes, they do have a crew there this year, and I've been hearing a lot about transitioning those fields into native habitat. I'm sorry, I don't have like that good of a scoop, but I could connect you if you wanted to know more.
Oh, yes, actually, I
Yeah.
would. The politics out here is pretty rife, and
Mhm.
people, because of lawsuits and whatnot, aren't really talking to each other.
Uh-huh.
But if you got an inside track, it would be fascinating to give me a heads up on what may be coming down the road.
Yeah.
Can I contact you and ask you for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Mhm.
Okay, I'll shoot you an email. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
And Clint, you can unmute.
Thanks for talking to us, Carolyn. Very, very interesting. I'm wondering how you address a plant like blue wild rye that has these ecotypes that occur, and just in within hundreds of feet of each other, and how do you address that?
That's a good question. I know Blue Wild Rye has empirical seed zones in other states, but there's very limited information for California. And so I have this advisory group, Naomi Fraga's on it, and Yuta Berger, and Justin Luong, and Arlie, and some other folks that are super knowledgeable to better position to answer that question, Clint. But I'm bringing to them a list of some of the top species that are used, and blue wild rye is definitely on there. And we're making this key, and so I'm hoping that we can have some good recommendations to answer just that. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have the answer. There's some good research on Stipropulchra that came out. That says a regional admixture is recommended for protecting diversity, but I don't know the answer for blue wild rye at this moment.
Well, why don't you talk a little bit more about the stipa and an admixture? And I'm not really exactly understanding what you
Yeah.
mean.
Okay. So it sounds like with the blue wild rye that you're seeing differences like pretty close together. So that would make me think that you would want to be more conservative with your how far you're transferring. But when they looked at Stepapulchra, yeah, I'm sorry, trying to digest this information. It's a challenging topic for me, but their research was recommending that mixing it at a broader level, so like the southwestern ecoregion, instead of like staying within Orange County or a watershed. The recommendation from that research was that was actually more beneficial to broaden it. And I wish I could articulate that better. But basically, looking at these species to determine, like, is it more beneficial to broaden your seed sourcing, or is it more beneficial to keep it real tight on how far you're moving the seed? Does that?
Yeah, that helps. Thank you very much. Yes,
It's a very challenging topic. Yeah,
it's
I'm learning
species
a lot.
species specific, it seems like, which is really
Yeah.
really makes it difficult. And it's interesting that stipa you can mix from different areas, and it ends up a better product, better result.
Mhm. Yeah.
Good. Any further questions? No, it looks like we're,
In the chat.
oh, in the chat. Okay, I was not able to bring up the chat for some reason. I've just got oh, here we go, main chat, yes. Can we learn more about the Klamath River restoration seed experience?
Yeah, we had a webinar last year, I believe, in March. Gosh, that long ago. And I feel like I want to share some links to papers and other resources we're talking about right now. There's a lot of other good resources out there to learn more about that project. There's been a lot of documentaries and things, but we did, like, CNPS hosted for this seed strategy project. We hosted a webinar and featured kind of the first results of their seeding. So I'd be happy to share that link and so many others related to that, but it's pretty exciting. The same guy that is overseeing that did the Elwha up in Washington, and we overlapped up there, so it was cool to reconnect down here in Northern California. I see another question about domestication. Can you give an example of a wild seed that was inadvertently? Yeah. Another research paper on another grass species that I'm slipping on what species, but it was a grass, showed the number of generations on the farm where it changed to be like on like the farm and not its natural area anymore. I forget the number of generations. The number of generations recommended by Society for Ecological Restoration is 4. And so I think that's based on research. So 4 generations on the farm is recommended before you go back out and collect wild seed. So I can share, I think Kevin Rice might have done that research from UC Davis. But I can share that paper in a follow-up.
Okay. Larry Bathgate wonders if the spreadsheet is available where the seed species were listed together with how they are processed to obtain the seeds and how they are prepared for planting.
It is not available yet.
Still a work in progress, right?
Yeah. Still working on making it available. And so processing, there's a California Botanic Garden, or Rancho Santa Ana was what it was called when they published it, was is a seed processing manual. But if you have anything specifically that's like urgent, you can ask me and I can send it to you if I have the information. I don't know the timeline on the propagation protocols. We're getting the web developer contracted right now, so all the information has been compiled and we're contracting to get it integrated into CalScape. So it's moving along, but I don't know exactly when it'll be available on CalScape. But yeah, feel free to email me any questions.
And Julie asks, can you provide us with the name and source of the studies on stipropulchra that you were just referring to?
Yeah, I could. I know Justin Luong was on it, but he's not the first author. Let's see if I have it readily available. Literature. Okay. If I don't find it in a few seconds, I might have to just follow up in email. Is it Nolan? Let's see. I think it's Nolan et al. It's in Restoration Ecology, Rethinking Local Seed Sourcing for the Restoration of a Foundational Grass Species in California. So I can try to find the link for that, but that's, I think that's the best I can do.
And Betsy was asking, the seeds are saved where and who uses them? I think you answered the second part of that in your talk, and that is that it's project based, and the seeds are really not not saved in a long-term storage, right? They're just
right. Yeah, it's a medium-term storage. I would like to have a better inventory of seed storage across the state. I know California Botanic Garden has a really big one. The seed producers have storage space, and that's part of the seed strategy, is to increase capacity for processing and storage. So like the Bend, Oregon seed extractor is pretty bottlenecked. And then there's one at LA Moran, but that's conifers only. And so there's a lot of potential there if we wanted some more state resources.
And is this seed work for restoration threatened by federal funding cuts?
Absolutely. Yeah. We were just talking about this right before the presentation. The federal partners have been leading this work for 20-something years, and this project is trying to facilitate interagency coordination, so across that federal and state line as well. And I hope that it's an opportunity for the state to stand up and support, because the feds have been leading this and the state wants to increase capacity for this. Yeah, it's a good opportunity to leverage resources, and I think we need each other. So yeah, it's been an interesting time to adapt with this project, because it is very federally funded and led. So yeah.
Okay, well, I think
Larry has.
Larry, did you have something?
Well,
Yes,
just a
it's kind of
follow-up.
right.
Yeah, oh, wait. Oh, yeah, I'm just to follow up on that, on my previous question. It looks like, and it's just a comment, it looks like you're going through all the seeds alphabetically. I mean, that was just like one page you showed on the presentation, and they were all A's.
So I have been compiling. I've been kind of hoarding lists and like tabulating from all the different manuals. And so my list is actually like 900 species, but I have to focus. And so when the regional working groups gave me 235, I focused only on those 235. So it's, yeah, I did it for 235. It's not 6,500, but it's something. Yeah.
And one more question, what is the specific role of CNPS in this project?
That is an ongoing question periodically. Up until this point, it has been, facilitating the steering committee and facilitating communication between the regional working groups and the steering committee and facilitating the regional working groups, compiling that connecting people and information, connecting people. Yeah, CNPS has such a valuable network, like that seed transfer group is so valuable. And I think that's a lot of thanks to CNPS's network and the audience being able to pull together the regional working groups. So I think, getting it started has been its role. And will to be determined what the role is going forward. There's been a lot of changes at CNPS, so we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much, Carolyn. And it's been an interesting talk and an interesting project, and I hope it will continue smoothly.
Yeah, thank you
road.
so much. If there's any other questions, feel free to email me. I have the STIPA paper, the domestication paper, and the Klamath webinar to share with you. Is there something else? But maybe that's it. But I'll email those to you maybe, and you can share them with everybody.
Yeah,
Okay.
super. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay. So I hope you can join us next month. The topic will be geology, primarily local, and the speaker is Nicole Myers. So please join us in August. Thank you all.